I listen on the app.
Stay up to date around the clock.
I listen, therefore I know.
Today's News Talk Radio, TNT.
Let's go to the man who's the creator of TechAdvice.live, our Cyber Wednesday correspondent, Alex Zaharoff-Reutt. Welcome back to TNT Radio, sir.
Wonderful to be here with you, Chris.
Now, what have you got? What's on your head? What's that? What are you doing? You're at Darling Harbour in Sydney, I've been told, at a new venue which is launching tomorrow. What's this all about?
Sure, it's called the Immersive Game Box, and this is the controller. Now, the tagline is it's like VR, but social and fun. So in this box, you can play 13 different games. In fact, it's 12 at the moment. There's another one coming next year. So there's things like Ghostbusters, Angry Birds, Shaun the Sheep, Paw Patrol, and next year there'll be a 2-hour immersive AI nightmare adventure. And so you've got to touch the walls of the Squid Game as well from Netflix. And you're in here. This is the controller. So you are the controller. Your body is the controller. It's a bit like Kinect, but instead of you standing in front of the TV, you look this way, you look that way. There are screens all around you. I mean, the whole wall is a screen. And this is an immersive interactive game. So this is a special media preview. It opens tomorrow. There are 27 of these around the world. This is the first one in the Southern Hemisphere, and it's in the same building that has the Sea Life Aquarium, the zoo, and also Madame Tussauds. So it's right in the heart of Darling Harbour. It's a lot of fun. I've been playing some of the games, and it's like instead of having the headset on, you're looking at it, and you can play with your friends, and you can play with them. It's interactive. It's a pile of fun, and it's going to be a huge hit.
I can see where we'll be spending a very rainy day in January, right where you are there. I like that idea. All right, let's get on with the rest of the tech news. Tucker Carlson, we know, has made a huge splash on X in 2023. He's joining Rumble. What does that mean?
Well, it means he's following in TNTRadio.live's footsteps. We're on Rumble as well, and Odyssey and Facebook and all sorts of other places. But look, he is broadening his horizons. He's growing his audience. Rumble's a great place to do it. He's obviously not chosen to go with YouTube. Rumble is sort of the big alternative to YouTube. And it's just showing the power of the streaming media universe and empire. You can be on these streaming platforms, watch on your TV, on your phone, on your computer. Traditional mainstream media doesn't have the power that it had before.
That's interesting you say that, because I know that the Australian Commercial Radio Association released some details this week saying how fabulous it was that so many more people are listening to standard radio. Now, look, that may be the case. I'm not questioning their figures. I'm just questioning the trend, because as far as I know, the trend seems to be people listening to their podcast, getting things more and more online, right?
Absolutely. Look, they're talking about record listenership on AM and FM, and also DAB plus radio, which is the digital audio radio, which normally means you need to have a physical digital audio radio in your kitchen or your office, and also maybe your car has one. But when I had a look at the stats, a good proportion of the digital audio broadcast audience is streaming. So they're using the radio app. It's called Radio App in Australia. And so that's streaming off PCs, off your Mac, off smartphones, off tablets and smart speakers. So because I didn't mention podcasts or streaming at all, it's only right at the bottom of the press release that it says, DAB broadcast includes streaming, which is a bit of a cheat, because digital audio broadcast is streaming to a dedicated device, and you wouldn't normally think of streaming media via your phone, via an app, as part of digital audio broadcast.
No, not at all.
So they've been a bit cagey in how they've done that. But look, It's great news for us and for other online streaming media platforms, be it radio or TV. It's unstoppable now. The media has splintered. There are so many more choices, and people gravitate to the best ones. Great example is Tucker Carlson. Great example is TNTRadio.live with 10 plus million downloads of our podcast, and it's only growing.
Yeah. Still in Australia, the video game industry has just released a report showing strong growth. In terms of revenue, it's increased by 21% over the past financial year. It's still very popular gaming, isn't it?
Absolutely. Look, it's bigger than Hollywood, and it has been for several years. We're talking about $345.5 million in the local Australian economy alone. And look, I'm in a gaming venue, Immersive Game Box. This is where the gaming has gone wild. You're no longer standing in front of an arcade machine pushing buttons. You're now actually part of the experience. But in this particular case, there's a number of smaller interactive gaming companies that have done really well. They're benefiting from tax advantages from the government, and gaming is strong, and it's only going to get bigger, especially as we have more of the headsets, Apple Vision Pro, and more of the new PlayStations and Xboxes to come. Pretty soon, we'll be living in the digital world more than we'll be living in the real world for some people.
All of this makes me feel terribly old, because I remember as a kid, and when I mean a kid, I mean a teenager, I'd walk into the Greasy Joe's fish and chip shop just up the road from where I lived and where I went to school, and there was a Space Invaders desktop kind of machine that you'd sit on. You'd sit on these crates, these milk crates, and play Space Invaders. And that was about as much gaming as I was introduced to when I was a teenager. But look at this now.
Absolutely. And you've got the issue of the original Pong game from, I think, the 1970s. And the Nolan Bushnell, the guy who founded Atari, he took this gaming machine into a venue, a cafe, some sort of Greasy Joe's, as you said. And after a couple of days, they went in to check, and the guy said, "Oh, it's not working anymore." What happened was the machine was so popular that the slot to put the money in was totally full. People had just filled it full of coins. You couldn't put any more coins into play. So it was a big hit from day one, and it's only grown, and now it's bigger than Hollywood.
Ah, fantastic. Rags to riches stuff. I love those stories. Now, Samsung has released its summer viewing report, which unveils new research into how Australians will be embracing television viewing over the summer holiday period. What does it tell us?
Well, 64% of Australians say that it doesn't feel like Christmas without Christmas movies. They're saying that 3 in 5, or 59% of Australians, plan to watch sports over the summer break. And half the nation, it says here, can't stand the TV, having the TV volume on an odd number or not a multiple of 5. So there's some quirky habits there. But the average person intends to watch 6 movies and 4.3 shows throughout the summer season, with the majority embracing the holidays period of Christmas movies. And obviously there's the big sporting moments and binge watching iconic TV shows. I mean, it is the holidays after all, and there's so much great content out there. And of course, you can be watching TNT Radio on your favorite television as well.
That's exactly right. You can see what we're doing and what we're doing wrong, or what we're doing right, as it may be. Now, Samsung is one of the companies sponsoring your big trip to the CES Expo. Firstly, tell my listeners exactly what the CES Expo is. For someone like you, it's massive and it's a must go and see. This is the world's biggest technology event, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's the Consumer Electronics Show, and it's been going for more than 50 years. It's massive. It takes over Las Vegas. The hotel prices rocket into the stratosphere. More than 100,000 people come. It's over 4 days, and it's just huge. There's plenty of side events. People who couldn't afford to go to one of the venues will rent out hotel rooms and beg you to come along. I've received millions of invitations. Samsung, of course, will be a showcase. They'll have a massive stand. I mean, we're talking about giant stand. The big companies have huge stands that take up a lot of space. And of course, Samsung has TVs and home appliances, their monitors and mobile phones and tablets and smartwatches and all sorts of really cool things. So they'll be showcasing some of their latest and greatest. And yeah, they've invited me to come along. It's one of a number of different sponsors that are getting me over to CES. And I can't wait, and I'll be reporting live from CES with you. And, I'll be the correspondent for TNT Radio at CES. It's going to be amazing. A lot of great stuff that wasn't in time for selling at Christmas is launched there. And in fact, a lot of companies will actually see if the buyers, the Walmarts, the JB Hi-Fis of the world, the Boots and all the rest, if they're interested in actually buying this later in the year. So it's a bit of a way for the companies to know what's going to resonate, but also all the world's media descends, and it's just a huge technology, nirvana.
All right. Big thank you to Samsung for doing all of that. Now, just before we go to a break, we're catching up with Dick Smith very shortly about scamming. You mentioned watches there. What is this story that I read about Apple stopping the sales of its Apple Watch Series 9 and Ultra Watch 2? What do people who have these watches do if they're stopping production?
Well, they're not stopping production. There's a lawsuit with a company called Massimo, who has a patent for the blood oxygen sensor. Now, that's something that Apple launched with the Apple Watch Series 6. So it's already been on the market for some time. And all the other stores, the JB Hi-Fis, the Walmarts, the Costco's, they'll continue selling. But Apple is stopping sales a week sort of before Christmas from its stores to comply with the court order. Now, the President Biden might veto this particular ban. He has the power to do that. Obviously, Apple's appealing. The head of Massimo has asked maybe Apple wants to do a licensing deal and there was some sort of payout. So, look, Apple also will look at rewriting the algorithms, but they're having to comply. And so the sales are temporarily being paused on one of the biggest technology items for Apple. They're going to sell, hundreds of millions of these devices. So it's a bit of a shock that the world's biggest tech company is having to pause sales, at least at its stores. But Apple's got the money to solve the problem with money or with rewriting the algorithms. And look, they've just taken this action to sort of put a line in the sand, and I'm sure it'll be resolved pretty quickly.
You hear of this all the time with other software suppliers, but you don't necessarily hear it when it's connected to Apple. So it's a major thing. We've got to take a break because I want to get to Dick Smith, adventurer and also entrepreneur, to talk about scamming. So we'll do that right after a break. Alex, stay right there. Do not go anywhere. This is TNT Radio.
De-weaponizing weather with reality and perspective.
Remember that song years ago, Lunatic Fringe? I know you're out there. Believe me, I know they're out there. I simply watch these people in the climate change cabal and listen to what they say. John Kerry is out there, and I will give him credit. At least he did not say 500 million people like Hillary Clinton. But the latest is that climate change is causing respiratory problems and has killed 500,000 people. Now, where do these statistics come from? Are there death certificates now that say you died because of climate change? But we've got this guy from France, I guess, François Gimin, a professor at the University of Liège and a specialist in environmental geopolitics. What the heck is that? He spoke on French TV about the threats of cats and dogs. Listen to this one. Cats and dogs are a disaster for the climate. A cat is a disaster for biodiversity. Do you hear that, Maisie and Shooter? And a dog is a disaster for the climate. Positive proof, folks. The lunatic fringe, except they may not be fringe anymore, is indeed out there. This is TNT Climate and Weather Watchdog. Oh my goodness, a dog. That's a disaster for a climate. Asking you to enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you've got.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver. And we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
Where the story goes, we follow. Chris Smith on today's News Talk, TNT Radio.
Welcome back. Good to be here. Well, we learnt this week that scammers are increasingly using artificial intelligence. How often have we previewed that fact? To con hardworking Australians, with one of the country's leading businessmen urging the government to do more to protect the vulnerable. Now, that businessman is Dick Smith, Australian entrepreneur, aviator, adventurer and philanthropist. He's the founder of Dick Smith Electronics, National Geographic, Dick Smith Foods, and he's, of course, a former Australian of the Year. Dick Smith, welcome to TNT Radio.
Chris, great to be talking to you again.
Thank you very much. We've spoken many times, but I'm so glad you're on to this because we in our tech segment have spoken at length about how AI will be used to the detriment of ordinary, everyday people in the world. You've unwillingly been the face of many scams broadcast on social media platforms. Describe how they've tried to use you.
Well, this has been going on for 3 years, and initially it was just a photograph of me with text saying, ring this number, get involved, you're going to make a fortune. But of recent times, with artificial intelligence, they've actually got video up, and I'm talking and I'm spooking some scam, but it's in my accent, and made up the words, made up the accent. It's just unbelievable that this could be happening.
And does it look, I haven't seen it specifically, I've seen many of the others featuring David Koch and others. How lifelike is it?
Oh, it's completely like they've actually got an interview I did with Sky News, and then they've used a computer to change my lips for the new wording, and then it appears they use another computer which takes my voice and then redoes the text to new words. So the whole thing looks real, and you'd think, in fact, when I first saw it, I thought, oh, I can't remember saying that. Gee, I must be getting a bit old. And then I looked at it again and I realised it was a complete scam.
And tell me the truth about trying to correct it. It's not as easy as picking up the phone to Facebook or wherever it occurs and getting it wound back or erased or deleted. It doesn't happen that easy, does it?
No, look, you've got to understand that Facebook and Instagram are part of this scam. They're earning a fortune out of criminal gangs, so it's not their interest to do anything about it. And our government doesn't do anything. In the scam that I'm on with Gina Reinhardt, we've actually got the Federal Treasurer on there spruiking it. And the government does nothing about that. I think everyone is so frightened. Instagram and Facebook are so powerful, no one wants to take them on. And so I've been complaining to these organisations for nearly 3 years now, and I've got absolutely nowhere.
Surely there's something they can do, though.
Well, you'd think so, but look, it appears Australians have lost millions of dollars, but it just continues. And Andrew Forrest, the billionaire, he's taking criminal action against Facebook, I understand, to try and stop it. But what Facebook and Instagram do is they delay. Just they've got unlimited finance, so they go to court and they say, oh, we've got to relook at this, and so nothing happens. But look, what I'm going to suggest to everyone, and I've been saying this, I've got a video on now saying, whatever you do, don't buy anything that is advertised on Facebook or Instagram because you'll probably lose your money. I've heard that up to 50% of the ads are scam ads, so just be sensible. Never believe anything you see on Instagram or Facebook.
I've got my tech and analyst here, Alex Zaharoff. Right, Alex, you'd like to ask Dick a question?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, where can we find the video of you giving this warning? And, is it possible for you to work with the office of the information? There's an office that works with safety. There's also ACMA. I mean, can you work with them to get the message out in part of a national campaign to really warn people about this? I know you're on radio with us, but yeah.
Well, Alex, here's the problem, that I've gone to the police, the federal police, the ACCC, to absolutely everyone, and of course directly to Meta that own Facebook and Instagram, and they all say they're going to do something, but absolutely nothing happens. Obviously the criminal gangs who are running these things are making such huge amounts of money, and Mark Zuckerberg, I think he's worth $50 billion, but the greed of the man is unlimited. He could stop this instantly. He could make sure that any advertisement which is being run is checked to see that it's legitimate. If I try and run an ad on your radio station, or if I try and run an ad on the television or in the newspaper, it gets checked by the legals to check that I'm not a criminal gang trying to defraud people. But when it comes to Facebook and Instagram, they don't check. They've been running them for 3 years. They just make money out of them.
And they can do it, and they can do it very easily, can't they, Dick? Because the things that were said during the pandemic that didn't fall into the government's narrative were quickly erased. Sometimes people lost their entire accounts on social media sites. They can do it very quickly, but they just refuse to do it in this case.
Yeah, it's absolutely right. They can stop it. Now, when it comes to Instagram and Facebook, all they have to do is put in a small computer program that looks to see if the name Dick Smith, Gina Reinhardt, Andrew Forrest, or the Treasurer, if those names come up, they just bring the ad up to be checked. But they don't even do that. And so, as I've said, it's been going on now for 3 years, and what really disturbs me is I understand from the federal police that Australians have lost millions of dollars. Lots of people believe in it. They've lost money. So I'll say again, never believe any ad you see on Facebook or Instagram. It's very likely run by a criminal organisation. You'll lose all your money.
One last question, Alex.
Well, where can we see the video with you, Dick, explaining and giving this warning?
Yeah, Alex, you can see it if you go on to Media Watch. If you put Google Media Watch in, they've got a segment on it. Also, if you Google a current affair on last weekend. They've done a segment on it. It's on lots of television. Unfortunately, the other place you'll see it is it will just come up randomly, and that's the thing I'm complaining about. People who are on Instagram or on Facebook, suddenly this my voice comes up and I'm being interviewed. It looks like a current affairs segment, and you watch this and you think, oh, this is interesting, a good way of making money. Dick Smith's backing it, it must be okay. But you don't realise, of course, that it's a complete scam.
And if you have no hope of bringing it down with your influence and connections, what chance does Mr. and Mrs. Normal in the suburbs have of trying to recoup the money that they spent on the scam? It's just awful.
Yeah, because remember, it's Gina Reinhardt and Andrew Forrest are billionaires, and they haven't been able to stop it. And the Federal Treasurer hasn't been able to stop it. Now, can you imagine one day if we looked on the internet and we see our Prime Minister looking to the camera and saying, fellow Australians, we're going to war. Now, most people would believe that, but it could be completely done by artificial intelligence, a complete fake. So what I'm telling people is simply don't believe, especially if it's on Facebook or Instagram, don't believe anything at all.
Thank you so much for being on the program, Dick. Have a great Christmas, and once again, thank you for your time.
And same to you, and same to everyone who's listening. Fantastic to be talking.
Good on you, Dick. Thank you very much. Dick Smith, who's one of the great Australians. For those listening abroad who don't know who Dick Smith is, one of the great Australians. And if he can't, Alex, if he can't change these predatory behaviours that we see on social media, and neither can the treasurer of the country, what chance does little old Mr. and Mrs. Normal out there have of trying to recoup some of their hundreds of thousands of dollars that they've lost in the scam?
Well, that's spot on. And look, Norton, for example, has an app called Genie. It's a free app you download to your smartphone, and you can then get it to look at posts online or videos or text messages, and it can analyze it and give you a warning as to whether it thinks it's real or not. And I think we're going to need more help from AI to determine whether what we're seeing is real or a deep fake, because it's just impossible to tell with your eyes, and we're going to need technology's help to protect us from technology.
So we can trust Genie once we put it on our smartphones or our iPads or our PC?
Well, look, that's from Norton. They're one of the world's biggest cybersecurity companies,
right.
And no doubt they are continuously improving that, and I'm sure it'll get fooled as well from time to time. I mean, it's a cat and mouse game. It always has been. But, yeah, that's McAfee also has some new AI scam detection tools as well. We're going to see more of this from other players because it's just such a growing problem.
Now, two things before we let you go. I'm running out of time. This is the last Cyber Wednesday before Christmas. Are there any last-minute tech gift ideas that we could search and find and use?
Well, obviously, you've got all of the smartphones and tablets and wearables and all those gadgets. But, I had received an email from Epoch Times. You quote them quite often. They have this deal for $1 for a year. $1. Buy a subscription for yourself, buy one for somebody else. TNT is also a worthy place to give a donation to. We rely upon support from the public. But look, just walk into your local stores. It's too late to order things online now, and you'll find gifts from under 50, under 100. And if money is no object, then you can buy iPhones and PlayStations and all the rest.
I've been caught a number of times at Christmas time when I think I get in 2 weeks before Christmas and I order something for the kids, and it doesn't come until the end of January. There's nothing more frustrating, is it?
Absolutely. That's why sometimes having cash or having your card, going in, getting it, even if it costs a little bit more, you've got it, it's under the tree, it's locked away. Yeah, if you wanted to order things, do it in November to make sure it arrives in time for Christmas.
Yeah, cash is king. And finally, we leave the best to last, Alex Zaharoff-Reutt. Some big breaking news. It's about you. You've been given your own tech show on TNT Radio.
Yeah, it'll be called Talking Tech with Alex. It'll start in the new year. I'll be live from CES where I'll be doing the show. I'll be talking to you, and the show will be on Saturdays, 6 to 7 p.m. On Sydney time. We'll have more news about this, but really great to be part of the TNT family now as a presenter.
That's fantastic. That's good. So that's 7 till 8, is it? Sydney time, daylight saving time. 6
to 7 p.m. Sydney time in daylight saving. When we go over to winter, it'll go back an hour like your show does. And obviously, I'll continue doing Cyber Wednesdays. We'll be cross-promoting. And in fact, you will be my very first guest. We'll be talking about your experiences in the industry over 30 years, just as I was actually your first caller on TNT Radio when you first started the show. You'll be my first guest, which I really appreciate. I'm honored to have you as the first guest. But we'll be covering all the big tech news, lots of interviews, and the tech world never sleeps. So it's never Groundhog Day in the world of tech.
Fantastic. Much appreciated, Alex. I look forward to having a chat with you on your own program, which is a great thrill. Thank you, mate. Thank you very much. And thank you for your contribution and support during 2023. It's been invaluable, and I really do mean that. Have a great Christmas.
And you. Thanks so much. Bye to all the listeners and viewers.
Good on you. Thank you. You can learn a lot more about what we've spoken about in that segment by going to his website, techadvice.live. That's techadvice.live. Alex Zaharoff-Reut, our last segment for 2023, but he's soon coming on TNT with his own show. Looking forward to that. I will leave you in the capable hands of Dean Mackin, followed by Katie Hopkins. We will come back at the same time tomorrow, hopefully. Let's do it again at the same time on TNT Radio.
The voice of a changing world. Chris Smith on today's News Talk Radio, TNT. You should hear what Ross Cameron is talking about.
I see there's a new trend taking place, sweeping the internet, of what they're calling sort of technology naked walks, where you go for a walk without your iPhone, without a headset, and just alone with your thoughts. Apparently some people are finding it quite emotionally taxing, but subsequently liberating. Certainly I find if I get into a motor vehicle with a teenager, it's a matter of seconds before there is a request for usually the latest Taylor Swift song or some other form of electronic stimulus. We are a generation apparently trained for a very short concentration span and a desperate need for digital company.
Ross Cameron on today's News Talk Radio, TNT.
When you can point me to an industry, to a platform that reaches 250 million people a month, virtually 9 out of 10 Americans, that's real, that's substantive, that's important. And that reach and that touch point and that daily reinforcement, it's an amazing place to be able to communicate messages. That's massive.
To find out more, go to TNTRadio.live.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Today's News Talk.
News and information.
TNT Radio. To hear a replay of this hour, go to episodes at TNTRadio.live. Now, TNT Radio News.
With your hourly news brief, I'm Matt Boyland.